My name is Joe Jurec. I'm the growth leader with CultureShoc, and I had the honor of facilitating workshops, leadership development sessions, and roundtable discussions at TCIA's Winter Management Conference in the beautiful country of Barbados. I wanted to provide a quick recap and summary so that way all of the owners and members of the association, when they take this back to their teams, they had both something to reference and perhaps even something to share. So we kicked things off on Monday talking about a buffalo mindset. And it's because when a storm rolls through, unlike cows that will turn away and try to outrun the storm, they never do. They're unsuccessful. It just prolongs their time in pain. Buffalo will turn towards it and charge into and through it, knowing that they'll get to sunny skies faster. This metaphor applies to so many things that we do as business owners, leaders, and just human beings. We take this mentality and apply it to all that we do, and it coupled really nicely with multipliers, a workshop conducted by Liz Wiseman and Sean Vanderhoven from the Wiseman Group, where they've done incredible research, written quite a few different books, and done workshops all over the world. And we had the honor of working alongside them this week at this conference. And on day one, Liz took us through what it means to be a multiplier and how the sad reality is most people are only utilizing a fraction of their intelligence and their capability in their job. And it's often with the noblest of intentions that we cause the most damage. Leaders develop blind spots, even if they were self-aware throughout most of their career. As they get deeper into their career or become more senior leaders, they get less honest criticism and feedback. People generally fear speaking truth to power. They need a safe environment to offer direct criticism and open, honest feedback. And it's rare that this is the case. We accidentally diminish our people, even if we have the best intentions. And if we're aware of this, if we work towards it and show vulnerability by talking up mistakes, by first identifying what our accidental diminisher tendencies are, it opens the door and gives a platform for our people to help us increase self-awareness by pointing things out, by sharing what our other accidental diminishing tendencies may be and how we're actually holding them back, even if we're trying to help. The reason that this is such a blind spot for most is that the things that are valued earlier in your career are not the same things that are valued as you take on a senior leadership role. As you're growing, as you're a contributor, you're usually rewarded and valued for the answers to hard problems. However, later in your career, what's valued most are not your answers, but your questions. And it's hard to make that shift or realize when it needs to occur. But as a business owner, you're surely there, because for the tree care industry, you're not just on the job site or in the trees, right? A large part of what you do and your responsibility is leading and developing your people. So some of the accidental diminisher tendencies are the rescuer accidental diminishing tendency is somebody's inclination to step in and get involved. So when they realize that somebody on their team's not hitting deadlines, they'll jump in and help them drag it across the finish line instead of giving the pen back. And their intention is to be helpful. However, it builds a dependency and limits people's ability to kind of step up for themselves. As a pace setter, you're somebody who's always out in front. You're kind of running through brick walls, right? And again, this is something that early in your career, it's a positive, but as a leader, you need to step back and allow your team to set the pace. A rapid responder, say an email goes out to a leader and a few members of their team, and the leader is the first one to respond. And maybe somebody on their team had already typed up an email that they were about to hit send on, and then boom, they see it come through from their leader, and it strips away their ability to contribute value. Again, the intention is to show that you're there, you're ready to help, you're quick to respond, but it has negative consequence. Even things like being an optimist. As an optimist, we were rewarded for it throughout our career because you find the positives in every situation and you see issues as opportunities. Look, that's healthy. But the way that this can diminish others is they can think we don't really understand the struggle and how difficult things really are, or that we're just out of touch with reality. You could be a protector, somebody who wants to take care of your people. In doing so, you don't allow them to make their own mistakes and fail, which is essential for them to grow. As a strategist, Yet again, you are thinking through and providing the thought and the strategy that go into things instead of requesting it of your team or seeing how they would lay out that strategy. And then as a perfectionist, attention to detail matters. It helps, especially in different industries and lines of work, but it leaves your team feeling like they're never quite good enough and that they're always going to get criticized even if they did really good work. The common thread between all of these is that they were once perceived as positives. Even now, people do them with the best intentions, but there are unintended consequences that not only limit, but diminish your team's ability to grow. It limits their intelligence and their capabilities. So there's exercises that we can do to turn those accidental diminisher tendencies into multiplier tendencies. And what we first need to recognize is what's the trigger? When does this tendency kick in? We talked about habit chains and how once we identify that trigger, we then look to the behavior that comes next, right? The surface result, the perceived positive thing that comes from it. For instance, when stepping in to help somebody else, the surface result is things start to move forward. Towards the end of that habit chain, that's where things deviate a little bit. And as an accidental diminisher tendency is in place, you're then going to see the negative consequence come in, or the unintended consequence, where now by stepping in, your person is not going to think for themselves, or they're going to expect that you're going to step in again in the future. If you identify when this happens and replace that initial behavior, that initial action with something like, there's a few different exercises or experiments we were provided with. And in that example of being a rescuer, it would be make space for mistakes, meaning allow your team to fail sometimes. Or ask all the questions, where you lead a meeting or a conversation without giving any advice whatsoever. Instead, you only ask questions. Another one is give the pen back, where you might jump in and contribute and help a little bit, but you make sure there's clear transfer of ownership back to the person on your team. And the last is give 51% of the vote, where again, you can contribute thought, but you make it clear that that person on your team is the one making the ultimate decision. Liz laid out these different multiplier experiments that can be used for each of the accidental diminisher tendencies. So from this conference, we want to make sure that we take action with this. And the lazy way to become a multiplier is to simply talk up your mistakes, identify what you believe are your accidental diminisher tendencies, and then ask your team to do the same, to point those out. In doing so, it opens the door and it allows you to become more self-aware as a leader. So in addition to the multipliers discussion, we went on for 3 days. On day 1, Liz kicked it off for us. Day 2 and 3, a member of her team, one of the partners at the Wiseman Group, dove in a lot deeper with how we can take action, how we can convert these things into part of who we are. I'll leave it at that for now because there's a lot more that went on throughout the week, but my sentiment here would be do something with this. At very least, take that lazy approach to being a multiplier and open the conversation up when you get back home and back to your teams.